Good morning, Oklahoma. Welcome to our webinar today. Good morning, greetings, export experts. How about that? Companies, trade experts, and everybody else from Oklahoma. We're delighted that you could join us today. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're probably all webinared out, but we really appreciate that you could take the time today and spend a moment with us talking about the Oklahoma Online Global Programs and the grants available with that, with Nicole and Andrew and myself, and going through what that means for companies, how we can help Oklahoma companies with online development tools. Now, just while the last of you are logging on, you probably already know us all, but let's do some little introductions first. So my name is Susanna Hardy, and I'm Chief Content Officer at a company called IBT Online. And I'm joined today by my colleague, Andrew Waller, Business Development Manager for IBT Online. We are really delighted to have Nicole with us, and Jesse is there too. Nicole is, I think, known to many of you, to most of you. I'm sure who are busy in the anyone to do with business in Oklahoma knows Nicole. Quick word perhaps also on IBT Online. We are a private company, a US company, and we are 100% focused on online tools. That is websites and online marketing for companies to go internationally. So we've been around from 2002, it's quite a long time in the online world. And we're really chuffed and pleased to have received the President's E Award, for which is the highest recognition any U.S. company can get for getting recognition of expansion of U.S. exports. And basically, we are focused on building websites for small mid-cap companies and doing marketing for them online to go global. So enough said about us, except that we are really proud to be working with Oklahoma to present something called the Online Global Program, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. Today's agenda, just really quick, we're going to start off with Nicole talking a little bit about Oklahoma Commerce and the STEP grant programs for Oklahoma businesses. Then I'm going to talk a bit more about why we think it's really important that Oklahoma exporters get online tools, especially in today's environment. Andrew's going to drill down and give some details about the Online Global Programs itself, what that means for your companies, how you can get your companies engaged with that, what do you have to do step by step. And then we've got some time at the end for questions and some takeaways as well. So, drop your questions into the chat box, into the question box. This is not a formal presentation. This is very much a presentation to help you as facilitators, as business facilitators, understand the program and get familiar with it enough, at least to help your companies, then encourage your companies to get there. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Nicole to talk a little bit about the Oklahoma Commerce STEP grants for Oklahoma businesses. And let's see if I can make this work. I'm going to try giving control of the mouse to Nicole and see if that works.
Okay, let's see. I am clicking forward and it's not letting me advance the slide.
Oh, I see it as advancing. No?
No. Hold on. Do I maybe need to make it full screen?
I see it as full screen and advancing. It's perfect for me.
Okay, it's not working. So maybe let you take control because all I see is the title slide.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
No worries.
Right, technology. Don't you love it?
Well, I will echo Susanna's comments on welcome everyone to this webinar. We really wanted to start out our session for the first week of January for training for economic development organizations with a set of tools that you all can use to help businesses in your community to grow and thrive in the area of COVID. And one of these tools is the STEP grant. Many of you are familiar with the STEP grant because this is not Oklahoma's first funding. With the STEP grant, we've had, I believe, 3 other funding cycles over the last 10 years. But just to give you a little bit of background, the STEP grant is funded by the federal SBA, and it is a grant to help small business with export development. The objective is to increase the overall number of small business exporters and increase export sales by helping businesses diversify into international markets. So next slide, please. So there we go. Oh, was it me? Okay.
Yeah.
Can you forward to the? I think it went back to.
Slide? Yeah. Do you want this slide?
So it should be the next slide that has the dollar. There we go.
There we go.
Oklahoma currently has 2 STEP grants right now. What we refer to as Step 8, and that's the funding number, and Step 9. Total, we have over $600,000 to help small businesses through this process. Next slide. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what businesses are eligible to apply for a STEP grant. First key is you have to be an Oklahoma business, and you have to have been in business a full year at the time that the assistance is provided. So not at the time you make the application, but by the time you would either attend a trade show or take advantage of one of the allowable activities. You have to be for profit. You have to meet the SBA's definition of size standards, which is by NAICS code. And then you have to have 51% or higher of your products and services to be US content. Next slide. So within the STEP grant, then, there are different maximum allowable amounts that a business can take advantage of. And those are different per every funding cycle. With our Step 8 grant dollars, the maximum a single company can get is $28,000, and under Step 9, it's $20,000. However, there's no problem for a business applying for both. So with having 2 concurrent grants, a single business can get up to, right now, $48,000 in assistance. Next slide. Every state designs their program on how they want to use STEP dollars, and you are confined to whatever you have applied for. And within Oklahoma, we've identified 4 different areas of most need. Trade help and expenses for trade show exhibition, foreign trade missions, export training workshops, and website services such as translation, localization, optimization, and e-commerce. Next slide. And on the next slides, I'll go through, kind of drill down within each section. So on trade shows, a business can apply to, say, go with Oklahoma to the Paris Air Show. And virtual or digital events are also included in that. So eligible expenses are the event registration, booth fees if it's in person, hotel and airline travel if it's in person. Every show has its own cap. And the grant for any activity is a reimbursable grant. The grant reimburses 75% of the cost up to a cap. So for instance, the Paris Air Show, when it was an in-person event before it canceled, the max that a company could get was $7,000. So they would have to spend, in order to get the full $7,000, they'd have to spend 25% more to get reimbursed by that amount. And domestic trade shows are usually around $3,000 to $4,000, and every activity has a different cap. So next slide. So this is an example of trade show reimbursement, just to show you all kind of the caps. We had $3,000 for Stuttgart, $3,000 for a domestic, $6,000 for Stuttgart, $75 for Paris. And then digital shows are significantly less because costs are less as well. Next slide. The next category were foreign trade missions. And we have contracted with actually 3 different consultants to conduct these. And for right now, due to COVID, they are not going to be in person. They will be virtual. For our trade mission to the UK and Ireland, for a cost of $6,600, which the actual cost after reimbursement is $1,650 for the business. The business gets an in-depth market and sector overview. The consultant does an in-depth search for potential customers. They usually get a list of 20 to 30. They set up at least a minimum of 10 B2B virtual meetings. And then whenever we are able to travel to the UK and Ireland, we will do an in-person trade mission. That for B2B meetings is a great low-cost way for a business to get into that market. Next slide. So website services is the newest category that the STEP grant funds, and it's one that Oklahoma has not participated in the past. But that is the primary reason we're having this webinar today. And IBT Online, which you're going to hear from just after me, is the official vendor that the state has chosen to provide these STEP grant services. They provide these services for close to 30 other states through the STEP grant. So since it was a new area for us, we wanted to make sure that we were using a vendor that knew the rules and regulations, because there are many of those through the SBA, and that it was as easy as possible for the businesses. But what STEP now pays for is localization and internationalization of your website for STEP allowable international markets, translation of the websites into up to 2 foreign languages, search engine optimization, and the e-commerce back-end function for expenses to set up websites to accept international payments. Now, in the past, the STEP grant had a cap on these services of $2,000, which doesn't get you very far. But because of COVID and the need for businesses to have this type of online presence, they've upped the cap to $10,000. We're told it's not going to stay at 10. It's going to go back down when COVID kind of subsides and they don't need to fund it at that amount. So because of that extra help for businesses to get set up, we're really wanting to push this as a very valid category to apply for. Next slide. Export trading is another area that we're going to concentrate heavily on with our STEP grant, and we're going to have kind of entry-level training available for export compliance, but then some technical skill training like ISO, ITAR training. And we have a goal of having 100 small businesses apply and get into the program to take advantage of our training as well as our other allowable expenses and activities. Next slide. You can go ahead and go on to the next slide. OMA, by the way, the Oklahoma Manufacturing Alliance, is one of our valued partners in this effort, and they will be helping with manufacturers to get them signed up to participate. We have streamlined our application in the past. Our application has been rather onerous. You had to do a narrative section, you had to have a budget. We've really pared that down into the very critical entry-level questions. And then there are a few forms that SBA requires, and there is quarterly reporting. So next slide. And I just wanted to mention again, finally, the STEP grant SBA priorities, and that is decrease the number of small businesses that participate in the program in each state, to utilize 100% of the funds, and to increase the ROI on the funding for the program. Next slide. And then what we're graded on in order to get additional dollars into the program is, again, increasing the number of small businesses that export, increase the value of the export, and increase the number of small businesses exploring significant new trade opportunities. And Susanna, with that, I think I'm done with my presentation, so you can click over to whatever you're going to present. Okay. As always, I'm available to answer questions anytime, as is Jessie in our office. We just really wanted you all as economic development organizations to understand kind of the basis of the STEP grant, and then we'll let Suzanne and Andrew tell you about their product that small businesses can take advantage of and get 75% paid for through the STEP grant.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Nicole. That was great, and apologies that the transfer of the technology, but we got through the slides anyway. We really wanted to talk to you a little bit about why we think Oklahoma exporters need online tools. And, you know, we have also set up a webinar on the 27th of January, specifically for Oklahoma companies. So it's just a webinar only for, yet another webinar, but only for Oklahoma companies to understand what are the online tools available to them today, and why we think they can benefit from it, and what is the online global program like in Oklahoma? How can they apply? What is it, and so on. So please, we would encourage you to get your companies to register and to look at this, to get on board with this webinar. Andrew, perhaps you could put the link of that webinar on the 27th of January in the chat box, that anyone can get that link if they're unsure of it. But let's start with the why. Why online tools? And we've been very struck in the last year, really, since COVID, talking with so many companies that we do. They very much say the same thing. They talk about, you know, the need for their companies to look after their employees, and what about cash flow and supply chains and so on. And then there's a big concern. The big concern they have as well is how to generate sales in a COVID era, in this new normal. How do you maintain your exports? You're not allowed to travel. How do you get out? You know, a lot of companies would really fill up their order book through these trade shows. You know, go to the Paris Air Show, get your order books internationally, sign up a new distributor, come home, do the sales. No longer possible. So really, it's that fourth priority that you can see, that fourth big priority of generating sales, exports, and business. That's where the online tools come in. And just, you know, I'll give you a couple of stats. I can get my mouse to work. Maybe a couple of numbers, just the ballpark numbers here about the sort of the online world. You know, as of October 2020, sort of, you know, in the pandemic, we had 60% of the world's population online. And not just like, you know, going online every now and then, you know, to fill out their online shopping. No, the average person, so 4.7 billion people spending 7 hours a day, most of their waking day online. So, you know, the world, in other words, is online. And it's still growing. And what I think is really strong is to how strong that's growing, not just on the mobile side, but on the social media side. That's one of the big things that people are doing, is communicating. And again, it's not about only communicating like your teenage kids communicating on Instagram. A lot of business is done via social media as well. Many of you have B2B businesses. Many of you cater to, you know, the mid-cap companies in Oklahoma who are B2B. They, let's be honest, can sometimes be a little bit behind the curve in terms of online development. They really shouldn't be anymore. COVID has to push them forward. Learn something positive from the last year. We need to embrace some of these tools in order to drive forward our business. You know, online really is for everyone these days. And I've listed some stats there for you. You know, 94% of B2B purchases are researched before contacting a sales rep. And over half of them are researched not by, 70% are researched not by a specific name, but by a generic search. In other words, the person with the best website for that generic search is the one that's going to pop up, not necessarily the best company. So even for B2B, you need strong websites in today's world. And then I was intrigued by this bar chart showing sort of social media channels which are used for B2B research. The percentage of B2B decision makers, 50% are using YouTube to decide what kind of service, what kind of companies they should buy from. Where should I buy my next, business to business product? I'll go on YouTube, I'll go on Facebook, on WhatsApp to expand my research. Just not only using the search engine functions. For us as well, online tools allow you to really level that playing field. It allows your mid-cap company to go global and to punch above its weight, to be at the same level, if their website is good enough, to be at the same level as the global leader, the multi-billion-dollar company. So it's really a way of leveling that playing field for your companies and allowing them, as I said, to expand their marketing, expand their brand awareness, and punch above their weight like that. So then the big question is, well, if I've got an Oklahoma website, why can't I just go international with my Oklahoma website? And the simple answer is just that that's not the way websites and the internet works. Google, I've taken Google as this search engine example, but there are other search engines. I mean, YouTube these days is a search engine. But let's take Google as an example because they all work the same way. Google searches something like 2.4 billion websites per second at the moment. And therefore, they really have to, you've got to be pretty fast. You've got to know exactly, Google has to be able to tell exactly which website is right for your search. And it searches according to or it ranks the websites according to the searcher, not according to the person who wants to be found. So it's not your company in Oklahoma who says, hey, find me. It's the searcher who says, are you relevant for me? So all of the internet is searcher-centric, customer-centric. So your prospective buyer in Germany might not find your Oklahoma website relevant, or Google doesn't think it's relevant for them. Why not? Because Google in Germany is google.de, and it's in German. And not just it's in German, but it's going to look at websites that are hosted optimally, hosted in Germany, that are digitally compliant to German online searches, that have the right keywords, all those attributes, all those criteria that make a good website. A good website is one that's relevant for your searcher. And your Oklahoma website in the US with a US URL hosted in the US with Oklahoma and US keywords is not relevant for your Mexican, UAE, Chinese, German, Argentinian prospective buyer. Search engines are therefore localized. I'm going to give you a little example of what I mean by this. I have a dog. I'm working from home. The dog's going to bark sometime during this webinar. I know it. And so I invested in a whole bunch of squeakless dog toys to occupy my dog. I happen to be sitting in London at the moment, by the way. Andrew, sitting in Grand Rapids, Michigan, doesn't have a dog, but just in case he did, he would go on to Google and look at squeakless dog toys too. So I'm going to my Google, which is google.co.uk, because I'm in the UK. Andrew goes to google.com. We both type in the same English words, squeakless dog toys. We get very different results. He gets chewy.com, and I get timeforpause.co.uk. He gets amazon.com, I get amazon.co.uk. So these are different search results. It's the same search engine, it's Google, but the Google in the US is different from the Google in the UK. So you can imagine how very much more different it is if you even add to that it's in German or Japanese or Arabic. Okay, so that's what we mean by localization. And when we talk about localization for a website, these are the 10 criteria that we use for a localized website. So it's registered in the right place. It's multilingual, navigation. It's obviously mobile enabled. The design is adapted. There are cultural aspects taken into account as well. It's optimized for the local search engines. It's hosted optimally. That's actually a strong criteria. It's got the right content management system for these different languages, and it has regulatory requirements that are fit for purpose in these different markets. So all that goes into making a localized website, no matter what. In each case, the key word about localization means that it's customer-centric. So it gives the best possible user experience for your prospective buyer. We will be going into a lot more detail about what that means, what it looks like, and so on at our webinar on the 27th of January. And Andrew's put that into the chat box, I think, if you want to pick up the URL for that. So in answer to our question, why do Oklahoma exporters need localized websites? For us, a localized website in today's world is the single most effective tool for example, distributors. For your international distributors, what do they need? They really, really want a website that they can use in their local language, in their local market, that they can really show off your products for. That they can go around to that trade show that you were, where they're looking at prospective buyers for you, and point out, look, this is what I'm selling here, and the prospective buyers understand it, and they see also that you're committed to that market. You know, if I'm a German buyer, there are German competitors to your products. Why should I buy something from Oklahoma if you don't even make the effort to make it easy for me to buy? Surely, if you care about your prospective buyers in these markets, give them something that shows you care, that is a localized website. So we find that the overriding one of the biggest reasons why companies take on a localized websites is to help their in-market partners. It also is a really fantastic tool for all trade missions and trade shows. And we can go through in more detail for that as well. But we're absolutely, I won't say swamped, but we are really, really working hard at the moment on international trade shows, virtual trade shows, using their websites and online tools for that this year. And it's a fantastic way to launch new products, particularly if you're doing it across different markets and you don't want to have parallel sales. So there you go. Why do Oklahoma exporters need localized websites? For all those reasons. And I would just say, basically, it's to generate international sales. You know, that's the reason why you have online tools. The rest is, as far as I'm concerned, sort of fluff. It's to generate your top line. So in conclusion, from our point of view, why do Oklahoma exporters need localized websites? Because the world is online. And that's good news for your Oklahoma companies. That's good news for your companies. Why? Because they now know exactly where all their prospective buyers are. They know where their prospective buyers are, their future distributors, their future employees. Everybody is online. And everybody is reachable online via the ways that you communicate online. So it's the best way to prepare for the new normal. I don't know what the new normal will look like. It's a guess. No one knows. But I'm sure that it will involve more online tools than ever before. So it's really the best way to get found, to be understood, do business internationally these days. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Andrew, talk a little bit about the Oklahoma Online Global Program. Andrew.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Susanna. And just really quick before I dive into the nitty-gritty details of the Online Global Programs for Oklahoma companies, I do just want to say I did put in the chat box, I put 2 links. The second link is the correct one, and that's going to be for the webinar on January 27th, so I just wanted to clarify. But to move forward, I want to talk about the details of the Oklahoma Online Global Programs, how they help Oklahoma companies, not only just Oklahoma companies, but companies and exporters all over the U.S. With this first slide here, we have a couple of different points. Of course, we have a dedicated web page on the left there. We have a simple screenshot, but it's for Oklahoma companies to find the resources that are valuable to them in their top markets. They're able to use. We can of course share that link in the comments here, and it's dedicated for those Oklahoma exporters. On the right, we talk about some of the different ways that we've been able to help exporters by using these online global programs, which I'll touch into on the next couple slides. some of the highlights here that I just wanted to point out that I know will be a consistent theme to some of the slides that we'll be talking about are, being able to reach new markets, being found and understood in your target markets. There's many different companies that target an audience of business to business or business to consumer, or even in many ways that we've been able to help companies is business to government and creating those different contracts and that relationship for their in-market target audience. And as we go to the next slides, this is where we get to dive into the many different programs and the options that we have available for exporters that are supported from Nicole, from the STEP grants that she mentioned a little bit ago. And so this first program that I wanted to point out is our option A. So this is either our 2-market expansion or 1-market expansion. And ultimately, this is building best practice, country-specific, optimally localized business development websites. And it's for your top, 2 international target markets, your top international market. This could be anything like Canada. This could be Mexico, Germany, anywhere in Europe. And it's for those consumers there, so that when they search up on things like Google or on their in-market search engine, that your website is coming up, that you're found, and that you're easy to do business with. This Y section is really the one that I want to focus on this slide. We have a company that we've worked with over the past 4 or 5 years, as you see the screenshots on the left side of the screen. And we've worked with them in about 5 or 6 different markets. It first started off with Mexico and Canada. They realized the potential and really saw a lot of this top line growth, the international sales growth that came from those 2 websites to start off, where then they transitioned into building a website for Germany and the German market, building a website in China, and continually to grow that top line growth. Another point for this company is called Armor. They're very much in the B2B world, and so for them it was very much important to create this tool for their international distributors to have that relationship, make sure that relationship is flourishing, rather than just having and relying on the .com US American website. Now for this option A program, to build these 2 optimized and best practice localized business development websites, it's going to be $12,000. Now, as Nicole noted before, that the STEP grants in Oklahoma are currently as a cap of $10,000. So ultimately, to Oklahoma companies, to your companies that you speak with, it's going to be, if that cap is applied to the $12,000 program, it's only $2,000. And to us, and to many of the clients that we've had in the past, it's a quote unquote no-brainer. And we've heard that many times before, and it's a super easy way and one of the best ways to really build that online presence. And as we go on to the next slides, we have a couple of different examples that I wanted to point out. The first one being Avionics Support Group, ASG. It's another US exporter. And for them, a very similar story as to Armor on the previous slide. We've worked with them over the past 4 or 5 years, starting off in China and Mexico, and then diving into Japan, Brazil, UAE, Russia, France. They've truly seen the impact and the benefits that the website grants them to build a relationship with their distributors. As we click one more time, it'll show you a quick pop-up for a video that we've made with somebody called Hugo Fortes, who's a VP at ASG, and he gives a very great description on the exact impacts, the benefits, and of course the cash flow that has come, the return on investment that has come from these websites. And so there's a little blip at the bottom that says the ROI was immediate. Off the bat in Japan, after building that Japanese website, he was able to strike a $500,000 airline deal with a company there that he would not have had the opportunity to do if he did not have this online presence. On the next slide, we'll be talking about Bullman Products, which is just another client that we've had for many years. For them, they took a different approach. They decided to build their distributor engagement, their recruitment, and identify those distributors by building websites first in Germany and the UAE, sprouting out to Australia and Spain, and just about all over Europe. For them, their main objectives were to localize their marketing campaigns that they have in the US, and take those and localize that for each of those international markets. For them, the ROI was simple. They see year-on-year growth of up to 22%. And that's still growing for them. And so they've seen that and continue to grow their websites and their online presence and to continue to drive that business forward. We have a great testimonial, again, similar to the previous company, from Ann Kirkwood. And she just briefly speaks about some of the benefits in that video as well. And just to say that all of these resources, all of these different videos and screenshots that we have are all on our website, so they're welcome for yourselves or for your companies that you work with, that you're able to distribute and learn more. Our Option B program is our second program, and it's still revolving around optimally localized business development websites. However, we have additional value to bring in terms of interest in CMS systems, website redesign, creating new content, or even integrating your websites into a different CRM system. Something that we've heard a lot is, integrating into Salesforce or into HubSpot. The big why here is ultimately just to continue to build search engine practices in an optimal way, whether that's domestic or that's international. And the end point is that this is the #1 domestic and international distributor tool to help out your in-market partners, both at all over the globe. And just a point there that the redesign base cost is $10,000 for this program. And as we move on to the next slide, we'll be talking about VaporPin, who is included in the Option B program, and because of the e-commerce plugins that we've been able to build for them. So included in the Option B, we have e-commerce, where they have started off with Brazil and Spanish-speaking Latin America. For them, they were ultimately looking to localize their marketing campaigns, also through social media and search engine marketing, increase their sales, their brand recognition. And this is in a very business to consumer method and way to reach their target markets in those in-market countries. So another great example there. And again, another picture of just exactly the localization that we go through, of course, looking at some of the regulations, the currency changes, creating the e-commerce platform on their website, so consumers don't have to stray away to an Amazon or stray away to another e-commerce third-party platform. It's all on their website, and it's easy for a Brazilian customer to go onto their website and make the purchases necessary. And I know that we've been talking a lot about the international online marketing. There's been, in the previous two examples, they both decided to rely also on search engine marketing and also social media marketing. And so another option that we call is Option C, is our international online marketing. As you can see on the right side of the screen, that we have a couple of examples of tweets and also Facebook posts that we've created for companies in the past in those localized languages. Ultimately, this program is here to continue to grow your traffic, your engagement, your conversions, and the biggest part of this is the return on investment for the websites and for the social media that you have in these international environments. This gives you a complete international presence when having not only the website, but also the social media to back it up. You're engaging one-on-one in a very personal way on these different social media platforms, whether they be the UK version or German version for LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, or the Baidu or the WeChat of China, and the markets that really are engaged on those. You're able to reach out to them and also drive that traffic back to your website. Again, we like to be as transparent as possible. So the cost there is $1,500 per market per month, and also subsidized by the STEP programs, and up to a cap of $10,000 for the search engine purposes. Here we have another great example of a company called Amsoil, and they were able to expand to Australia, to France, India, Latin America, to the UK. Very similar goals. They were trying to increase their sales, their brand recognition, find new distributors, have a distributor recruitment page, so that when distributors are looking for these types of products in those markets, this page comes up and that they're able to get in contact much easier and continue to see that business growth in those markets. And with that, and we have a screenshot here of some of the work and some of the websites we built for them in France, and those websites that we do build. And with that, I just want to say thank you, everybody. I'm going to be passing it back to Susanna for some takeaways, and of course, send it off with some Q&A.
Thank you, Andrew. Thanks very much. Right, yeah, we just want to do some, little takeaways. Some of you already put a couple of questions in, but please add more questions, and we're happy to spend a bit of time doing that for that. But really, just our takeaways from today. I guess one of the very first ones really is just repeating why we think Oklahoma exporters could benefit from online development tools like websites, like marketing, like e-commerce sites. I hope I've shown through those numbers. The world really is online, and even after we all get vaccinated, I think that the world will stay online. I think that some of those trends have just been accelerated by the pandemic. They're not going away. Yes, we all need to meet face to face. Yes, we all need to go to trade shows again, and we will. I'm really looking forward to it, I can tell you. So bored at home. But the online tools have proven to be so effective and have really driven a lot of companies. Companies have really experienced their success in especially in the last 12 months or 10 months. To reach international markets in particular, you need localized websites, localized marketing, and that's what we hope to bring with the Oklahoma Online Global programs for you or for your companies. As Andrew said, there's a specific page on our website called the Oklahoma Online Global Programs, and some of the things that we hope these programs bring you or bring your companies as well. Basically it's all about growing your sales, growing your business. And okay, we talk about brand awareness and controlling your online presence and so on, but really it's the top line growth. It's how to create sales in today's world. So some of the next steps: contact your companies, figure out who would best benefit from international websites. Who's got the good distributor network that would benefit from online support. And then please do register and get your companies to register for the Oklahoma webinar on Wednesday, the 27th of January. It's at 10 o'clock CST. Andrew's put the link in the chat box, and we'll send it out to you later if you want as well. Oops, I forgot to put it in the slide. Apologies. Step number 3 doesn't have a link, but it should be there. And then check out our page on our website. For that, the page, as I said, is dedicated resources for Oklahoma, links to the webinars. It'll have testimonials on it in 2 cores, our contact details, anything else like that. And with that, I'd like to get around to some questions. We've had a couple of them in. So Nicole, there's a couple for you, which I'm going to just what have I done? Hold on. Sorry, I moved my mouse. A couple for you, Nicole, that I'd like to say first, which is, how long does it take on average, to get the STEP grants for companies? Nicole?
It cut out. How long does it take on average? What?
The application for the STEP application.
Oh, the STEP application, as far as the time for a company to fill it out, should be relatively short. From the time we receive it till a company is approved, is going to probably be a 2 to 3 week period maximum.
Okay. And there's another question I have as well here. Hold on. This is a question also for you, Nicole. Does the STEP grant cover product exporting only or services? For example, if I have a local engineering company expanding in Canada, would they be eligible for STEP funding as a service exporter?
Services do count. as long as they are an eligible small business located in Oklahoma and meet all the other criteria. But yes, it doesn't have to be a widget. It could be a service.
Okay, so STEP grants are for service companies and for, as you call them, widgets companies. Right. Just the last question as well on you, is the STEP grant availability, eligibility for on a first come, first served basis?
Yes and no. For the purposes of the activity of website translation and optimization, yes, it is first come, first served. In regards to participation in a trade show, the applications have to be evaluated by a group of our partners that evaluate the applications to see what companies would best fit with, say, the Oklahoma booth. So, for instance, Paris Air Show. We have a certain size booth that will only accommodate a certain number of companies. So while we can take 6, we can't take 15. And so it's not necessarily first come, first served on actual trade show event, but it is first come, first serve on dollars for these types of services.
Okay, great. Andrew, a couple of questions for us, and then I'm going to throw this one at you, if that's okay. Yep. The question, does IBT Online help the company decide which markets?
Yeah, that's a great question that we get all the time, actually. And a lot of times when a company is looking for different international markets, it's ultimately that we provide them with the resources. I think, when I'm speaking with companies, that there's plenty of international markets that they can reach out to, but it all falls on their different objectives that they look to accomplish, whether that's trying to increase their sales, increase their brand awareness, increase distributor relationships in a certain market over another. I can certainly point them towards different resources, but as IBT Online, we let the company really take control of those decisions and then also, aid them in building those websites for them.
Yeah. Okay. Now, a quick question, Andrew.
Can I hop in here? Oh, can I hop in here just real quick as well? Can you all hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay. We have actually partnered as well with the Oklahoma Manufacturing Alliance. They are adding these new business assessment tools to their tools that they use to help companies in Oklahoma. And within the business assessment tool, they are adding export readiness questions. So as they complete this business assessment, which is free to the company, by the way, OMA does not charge for it, through the export questions, they will actually help a company make those kind of determinations. So that's kind of a local support to see what markets they really should enter, and there will be some research behind some of those questions they have. So if you all have I will also include some contact information when this is over to everyone who participated on who to contact at OMA. If you all have a business that would like to go through that business assessment tool, that includes the export readiness questions.
That sounds superb. That sounds like a really good service. Yeah. Yeah. Andrew, a quick question as well here. Is this new for exporters?
The programs are for, made for companies that have been exporting to these international markets already and are looking to grow and build off of that.
Okay. A quick other question that's just come in also. How long does it take to build these websites?
The actual website build program it's a very structured process on our end, but it takes about 3 months from start to making the websites go live.
Yeah, okay. I would add as well for the e-commerce one, sometimes that goes into 4 months. It depends on how many bells, whistles, and widgets the website gets on. Yeah. Another question that's just come in, are there any markets that you don't do? Never had that question before.
No, I mean, Yeah.
Now, there are actually some markets that the federal government prohibits companies export to. So that list of countries would be unavailable for that type of translation, and that's a federally published list that we can include a link to.
Yeah, let me expand from our point of view. We have never been asked to build a website for North Korea, Afghanistan, Yemen, Somalia. No. So I would say, I would turn the question around. What are the most popular markets that we find ourselves asked for from US companies? Canada, Mexico, UAE, Germany. After that, it splinters quite a bit. We get quite a few for China as well. Japan, Brazil is quite large too. So there you have, I mean, the top leading, I don't know, 20 countries in the world in terms of exports and GDP are the top 20 countries that we build websites for. But you're right, Nicole, to point out, there are indeed countries that we would not build a website for. For example, you know, whatever it is, North Korea. Okay, we've pretty well run our course. I wanted to thank Nicole and Jesse and all the Oklahoma Commerce team for that help. I wanted to thank my colleague Andrew as well for joining. Thank you so much. And for presenting and being the main contact person for Oklahoma. Most of all, I want to thank all of you for attending on these over webinar days. We really hope that you'll take advantage of the program. I think it's a fantastic program for your companies, and really take advantage of this window of the extra funding that's available. There is that webinar on the 27th. We will give more details there, more case studies, walk you through what it looks like, explain more when we talk about localization, what that means, give more examples. And with that, have a great rest of the day. Thank you all very much. Stay safe, stay well, and thank you. Happy trading, everybody. Thank you all so much. Bye-bye. Bye.